Good evening, visitors. Welcome to the Australian War Memorial's last post ceremony. My name is Sam Kern, and joining us today from the Royal Australian Air Force is leading aircraftman James Parfitt. We welcome the veterans who have served, those that are still serving, and the families that love and support them. The live stream of this ceremony is made possible by the Return and Services League of Australia and the RSL and the Services Club Association. We welcome members who are watching the broadcast of this ceremony across Australia. During this evening's ceremony, wreaths will be laid at the base of the Pool of Reflection by visitors to the memorial. If you're able, please stand and join in singing the national anthem. If you're able, please be seated. The Australian War Memorial was a vision of Charles Bean, Australia's first World War official historian. Bean landed with the Australian troops on Gallipoli and stayed with them at the front through the end of the war. The idea of this national memorial and museum came to him at Pozières, France, in the depths of the bloody fighting of 1916. Bean's idea was this would be a place where families and friends could mourn loved ones buried in faraway places. It would also be a place that could help all Australians understand what these men and women had endured and what they had done for us. Bean's vision, to which we remain true, is best expressed as inscribed in the entrance to the memorial's galleries. Here is your spirit, in the heart of the land they loved. And here we guard the record which they themselves made. Tonight, we will read the story behind just one of those on the Roll of Honor, which lists the names of more than 103,000 men and women who have given their lives for us in war and on operations for more than a century. But first, we present a lament, Flowers of the Forest. Wreaths of floral tributes will now be laid at the base of the Pool of Reflection.
Today we remember and pay tribute to Lance Corporal Walter Henry Anderson. Walter Anderson was born in Aberdeen, Scotland around 1881. Before the First World War, he immigrated to Australia and settled in Rockhampton, where he was married with 2 children, working as a miner. Anderson enlisted for service in the Australian Imperial Force at Rockhampton on the 5th of November 1914, joining the recently formed 15th Battalion. The battalion consisted mainly of Queenslanders and Tasmanians, with the men brought together at Broadmeadows in Victoria for training. In early December, Anderson went absent without leave for 2 days and was admonished by his commanding officer. He embarked from Melbourne with the rest of his battalion on the 22nd of December aboard the transport ship Ceramic, bound for Egypt. During the journey, he was admonished several times for minor misdemeanours. Arriving in Egypt at the beginning of February, the 15th Battalion continued training in the desert and was briefly sent to occupy defensive positions during the final Ottoman thrust to capture the Suez Canal. The battalion sailed for Lemnos in mid-April, where final preparations were being made for the Gallipoli campaign. The 15th Battalion went ashore during the afternoon of the 25th of April and was sent straight into the fighting. At one point, it was in danger of being cut off and annihilated until its commanding officer withdrew it to more defensible ground. Over the next month, the 15th Battalion helped shore up defences at Pope's Post and Quinn's Post. On the 9th of June, Anderson was court-martialled for using offensive language towards a non-commissioned officer. He was awarded 28 days field punishment number 2, which usually consisted of heavy labouring duties. In early August, Anderson was evacuated to Egypt suffering a mild case of gonorrhoea. He was sent to the detention barracks hospital at Abbassia for treatment. Anderson rejoined his battalion at Lemnos at the end of September. It had suffered heavy casualties during the failed August offensive and had been withdrawn for a rest. The battalion returned to Gallipoli in November and remained in reserve positions until withdrawn on the 13th of December as the Gallipoli campaign drew to a close. As the battalion returned to Lemnos, Anderson was promoted to Lance Corporal. The men sailed for Egypt on the 27th of December and disembarked at Alexandria at 10 a.m. on the 29th of December. At 10 p.m. that night, they boarded a train for the journey to Moascar. As the train neared Abu Sir railway station in the early hours of the 30th of December, Anderson fell from the carriage and was killed. His body was located and was buried in the desert near Abu Sir railway station. His remains were later reinterred in the Ismailia War Memorial Cemetery. His date of birth was unknown. He was thought to be 34 years old. His name is listed on the Roll of Honour on my right, among almost 62,000 Australians who died while serving in the First World War. His photograph is displayed today by the Pool of Reflection. This is but one of many stories of service and sacrifice told here at the Australian War Memorial. We now remember Lance Corporal Walter Henry Anderson, who gave his life for us, for our freedoms, and in the hope of a better world.
Please stand for reading of the Ode and sounding of the last post.
They shall grow not old, as we that are left grow old. Age shall not weary them, nor the years condemn. At the going down of the sun and in the morning, we will remember them. Lest we forget.
We leave you this evening with the words of the memorial's founder, Charles Bean. Many a man lying out there at Pozier or in the low scrub at Gallipoli with his poor, tired senses barely working to the fever of his brain has thought in his last moments, well, it's over. But in Australia, they'll be proud of this. Ladies and gentlemen, girls and boys, that concludes the last post ceremony. On behalf of the director, staff, and volunteers, we thank you for visiting the Australian War Memorial today and for your continued support of the memorial's development project. We wish you all a very pleasant evening. Thank you.